The saddest part of a beloved cartoon is always the end. You stuck with the characters for seasons and seasons just to have their entire story come to a close. It hurts, but you just have to move on. Or you can do what I did with The Office and continue to rewatch it until you shut everyone else out of your life because they'll never be like the wonderful employees of Dunder Mifflin. But that's why when some cartoons know their ending, they decide to give the characters a nice, happy, fulfilling end. Other cartoons go for an alternate route, where they end on such a confusing and unbelievable note that you can't just help but go, what the fuck? These are the endings you didn't see coming. The endings that don't match the tone of the rest of the series. The endings that completely throw curveballs at the last second and make you wonder what's going on behind the scenes. These are the top 10 WTF endings in cartoons. I'm your host, RetroNemo. Now, obviously, this is a disclaimer for the spoilers, as we will literally be talking about the endings of these shows, so I guess if you don't want these shows spoiled for you, head out. Or just watch the whole series so you're caught up. I don't know, it's up to you. Let's get started with the list. Remember the original Teen Titans, the one that everyone loved? There was no cutesy comedy or hyperbolic versions of the characters. This was raw action, drama, characters with layers to them, and Eastern animation influences through the roof. No wonder it was a hit, and while I don't hate Teen Titans Go by any means, I find the hate surrounding it to be more annoying actually. I can't deny that the original show was just a better series. So how does such a massive show with multiple developing storylines, character arcs, and lore decide to wrap up? On a Terra episode, of course! Remember Terra? Beast Boy's lover? She was from the Earth Kingdom or something and made rocks move. She did some stuff with Slade, but she's still cool. Yay, Terra episode, woo! Yes, that's right, dear viewer. I'm sure you remember this one. The episode followed a thirsty Beast Boy chasing after a girl he thought was Terra. However, this girl claims she remembers nothing of her past or any of the series events, and that she's not Terra. Beast Boy is frustrated and confused as heck, because obviously this whole situation's just weird. Beast Boy even has a fight with Slade, who's like, bro, this wasn't me. So if it wasn't Slade, who did this? Why is Terra suddenly a schoolgirl with amnesia? Well, I'll tell you. There is no answer. Really, this episode ends on the most underwhelming note ever. Terra basically tells Beast Boy in the hallway that the girl he wants her to be is just a memory. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's emotional as heck. And it's paired with this beautiful piano music. The whole thing is super well done, but also extremely unfulfilling. Terra just flat out rejects all of Beast Boy's proposals for seemingly no reason. Like, he offers her to be part of the Teen Titans and she turns it down for an algebra test? What? And then she just walks away. Beast Boy has to leave and just accept this depressing ending. What comes next is nothing. The series ends here. Sure, there was that Trouble in Tokyo movie, and that served as the official ending for the series chronologically, but that movie was completely one-off from the show, continuing none of the show's plot points or storylines. And even so, this is still the show's official ending. The fact that the episode with the most unfulfilling ending also ended the entire series is just the cherry on top. So why do they have to go out like this? Well, Teen Titans did have a pretty great 3-part finale in season 4. See, the show's team thought that this would be the end of the show. They planned it to end on the 4th season, they thought the series was ending there, so they went all out. With an incredible finale with all your favorite characters, a big battle, it was great. It was literally called The End. But then CN threw them a curveball by greenlighting another season, so they rolled with it and made another standard season of Teen Titans. No big ending this time. Then Cartoon Network was like, okay thanks, and canceled it out of nowhere. To this day, it's not entirely clear why. The team had the carpet pulled out from underneath them, and suddenly this mediocre season 5 ending was now the final note of the entire series. And their planned out 3-part ending will forever be just the season 4 finale. Super tragic if you think about it. My answer to anyone else who's like me and disappointed by this, just watch season 4's finale like it's the series finale. It's much better that way. And with the Teen Titans original remake possibly in the works, we might finally understand what's happening with Terra. For now though, this is just a disappointing WTF ending. Rocko's Modern Life was not shy to strangeness. I mean, this show about a kangaroo in the real world and a cast of friends who I can't even discern what animals they are. This thing was weird, but at the same time incredible and one of the most iconic cartoons of all time, especially from its era. With a reboot on the way, it's looking like Rocko isn't going anywhere anytime soon. But that wasn't the case in 1996 when the original series ended, and the episode it ended with was odd even for Rocko. The thing that made the finale so out there was a canon in-universe time skip, but let me take it from the beginning. The episode starts 17 years in the future, future. Filbert's future children find an old banana in the freezer, they take it to their father to explain it, and he totally recognizes it because obviously that's how things work. He launches into a backstory, and in this story, Big Head is about to launch a monkey into space in this giant rocket he somehow has. Well, Rocko won't have it. He wants to protect the monkey and ends up chasing him into the rocket along with Heifer and Spunky. They launch into space, and that's where they stay for 17 years. Immediately after Filbert wraps up his story, the rocket lands and they all run outside to sea. Rocko and crew come out unaged because space, and they reunite. Then the bananas start talking and I start to get confused, and long story short, the rocket crashes into their house and takes them back into space, and the episode ends. That's how Rocko's Modern Life ends, with them all being dragged into space, presumably forever. Kind of sad. Now this is the official ending for the series confirmed by Joe Murray. However, it was not the last episode to air. That honor goes to Turkey Time Floundering Fathers, as they aired that episode out of order on account of Thanksgiving. But this was the last episode made and ever produced, and thus goes down as the last Rocko episode. A fitting end, even though it's kind of weird. That is until the remake comes around.
Nice try, Earth Frog.
What are you talking about?
You might have gotten away with it if you'd taken the sticker off first.
But I don't understand. I never try to.
Save it for the Council of Judgment. Let's go home.
Chowder is iconic. In the short 3 seasons that it had, this show proved itself to be one of the most hilarious and original offerings from Cartoon Network. It's not that often that I'll rewatch a cartoon that will make me laugh as much now, if not more, than it did when I originally saw it. Chowder is definitely the latter. One thing that made Chowder so great was its self-aware fourth wall breaking comedy. I was not afraid to admit that it was in a cartoon, and they referenced it a lot.
11 minutes later.
Boy, that has to be the craziest episode we ever had.
So it makes sense that a cartoon with this many show-breaking jokes would have an ending that completely broke logic. And ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly what we got. So the premise of the show is Chowder is Mung Dahl's cooking apprentice. Mung has to pass on all of his cooking knowledge. So it makes sense that the series would end with Chowder getting an apprentice of his own. The cycle continues, he passes it on, blah blah blah, it's really sweet. But Chowder never had much continuity, they never really aged as characters. It would be hard to do that without a massive time skip, so that's literally what they did. In this episode, Chowder sings a song literally about how he doesn't want to grow up, and in that song, he holds a note for 20 years. Chowder realizes it's 20 years in the future, and Mung and Truffle are retiring. He spends time trying to find a new apprentice, meanwhile realizing that not growing up has ruined the lives of everyone around him. He finally settles on a young turtle named Scraps, who hides in his box as an apprentice. He's just adorable, oh my goodness. And together, Chowder learns to grow up and cook a dish with Scraps. It's heartfelt. But the craziest part of the episode is the epilogue that talks about how the characters end up. Mung Dahl and Truffles are happily retired, which is sweet to see. Schnitzel gets married to Endive, which is insane in its own right. It's made even crazier when you realize that they both enjoy the marriage. And Chowder, believe it or not, actually ends up happily married to Panini with a ton of kids. The book closes one last time, and the story of Chowder comes to an end. Now, the idea of Chowder jumping 20 years in the future just because he didn't realize he held a note for so long is crazy. It seems like it would be a 1-second bit that they would drop after, well, a second. Except this is the canonical series finale. Just seeing a giant 20-something-year-old Chowder who didn't realize he was growing up for 20 years is such a crazy and insane ending, and it's just great.
Well, I didn't make it fly.
Oh, sure, anything's possible in one of these 30-minute specials.
If you thought that Rocko's Modern Life had a crazy ending, you'll probably be equally shocked by the ending of Joe Murray's other show, Cartoon Network's Camp Lazlo. The series, which followed the adventures of 3 Boy Scouts, Lazlo, Clam, and Raj, at a summer camp, was pretty much one-off. It was a silly show with funny characters. It was just a very cartoony cartoon, like Rocko's Modern Life before it. So how could its ending find a spot on this list? Simple. The series finale had a twist that unraveled the fabric of the entire show. Let me explain. In this episode, Lumpus' Last Stand, Scoutmaster Lumpus convinces people that laundry is holding us all down, and everyone stops wearing clothes. It sounds crazy when I'm explaining it, but this is just like a typical episode of Camp Lazlo, I don't know. This works out well at first for Lumpus, and everyone rallies around him, but things start to fall apart when people start to smell on account of never washing their clothes, and then it gets even crazier. In the midst of everyone calling out Lumpus for his bad doings, an old man comes out and reveals to everyone that he is the real Scoutmaster Lumpus. The man we knew for 2 seasons as Lumpus was actually an imposter that locked him in the closet. That's right, right, Scoutmaster Lumpus is a sociopath who locked an old man in a closet and assumed his identity, unbeknownst to an entire scout team of kids. But honestly, it's not that much of a surprise if you think about it. Lumpus is a crazy jerk who was a horrible Scoutmaster. It makes sense that he was never really meant to be one. In the original ending for the show, the person that Scoutmaster Lumpus replaced wasn't supposed to be a random old man. It was supposed to be Heifer from his other show, Rocko's Modern Life, but they ended up not going with that idea in the end. Still, it's crazy to rewatch this series knowing this information. It just adds a dark tone to everything, knowing that somewhere in his house there's an old man locked up. This is really, truly the first Tale of Two Stands, if you think about it. And this was a legitimate crime, so Lumpus is an actual sociopath. Damn.
We're standing in prickly pines naked, and the moose we thought was our scoutmaster just got hauled off as a deranged lunatic to a funny farm.
Yeah, what a great summer!
Cartoon Network has had its fair share of bizarre shows. However, what I feel truly takes the cake in terms of insane and bizarre has got to go to the marvelous misadventures of Flapjack, the story of a little boy named Flapjack and his pseudo-father figure Captain Knuckles as they go in search of adventure in Stormalong Harbor and looking for the ever-illustrious Candy Island. The show was straight up insane, and I remember there being like a few times I was legitimately terrified by it, like legitimately terrified. But that's nothing compared to how the show actually ends. It's pretty dark. Flapjack and Knuckles love candy, and so they're noticeably excited when the candy barrel has a new item, which is called 1,000 pieces of candy. Guess what it is? They're only allowed one per customer because it's so much, but Flap and Knuckles both sneak back in disguises, and they get way too many. What happens when you eat too much candy? You turn into a merman, of course. Duh, haven't you ever read a book, dummy? Banished to the ocean, our heroes seek refuge with fellow mermen, where they eventually learn to love themselves, until they turn into full fish, sadly, which I guess was meant to happen the whole time. Not because of candy, but because they had a disease from playing with fish. I guess that's just something they did, I don't know. After being treated, they end up back to normal and go straight back to eating candy because I guess they can never get through the 12 steps. But this time there was real consequences, in the form of these two literally turning into humans. We see the two suddenly morph into real life actors, which is kind of terrifying. They go out to find Bubby, who's actually in the same condition because I guess she ate too much candy too. Now they're all in these weird humanoid forms. So they decide to pack up and leave Stormalong Harbor. The only option is to float away and find a new home. What a sad ending! Like, all craziness aside, this is such a depressing end for all of the characters. We never do figure out what happens to them or if they ever find a new home. All I can say for sure is this ending shocked me when I first saw it, and it shocks me just as much now. What makes endings like this, and also by extension other ones like Chowder, so weird and crazy to me is the fact that they seem like one-off bits that would happen in the show. But the fact that they end on this note, and the fact that it ends like this, you know that there's nothing else after it, it just makes it a lot crazier and in a way a lot more depressing. But we're only halfway through.
Bobby just doesn't want you to have fun.
But Bubby loves me.
Let me tell you a thing or two about Bobby.
Hey guys, I know you're in the middle of an amazing top 10 that I'm very proud of because it's just incredible, but I just want to give a moment to talk about our Patreon. Guys, if you ever thought, how can I help support the Roundtable just a little bit more? Well, you can check out our Patreon. There, for just a little bit of money every month, you can get exclusive access to things like scripts and our avatars, and you can get your name shown at the end of the videos like all of these beautiful people here. And for a little bit more money, guys, you can get your channel shouted out at the end of the month, which is just really cool. You know, we'll shout you guys out, we'll do you good. Yeah, that's the Roundtable Patreon. You can check it out if you want, if you're feeling generous, and let's get back to the top 10. To talk about the finale of Aqua Teen Hunger Force is kind of confusing. The show about a clan of fast food items doing literally anything has had endings before, all the way back in season 6 actually. However, it survived all the way to its 11th season before it finally got the axe. Seemingly got the axe anyways. See, the network aired and advertised what they called the last episode, literally calling it the last one forever and ever, for real this time we fucking mean it. Pretty blunt. The episode seemed like a good ending to the show for the most part. Frylock and Master Shake fight each other when they realize the magic crystals they both have that keep them alive are dying, and by proxy so are them. They try to go to an alien planet to retrieve a clam and get the crystal, but it doesn't work out and they both end up dying. The only one who actually survives is classic Meatwad, who lives out a full life. The episode ends when we see an older Meatwad, now with a family, bringing them back to the old house, and they show it to the next generation. It was sweet, but hold it, it's fake! That's right, Adult Swim juked us yet again with a fake ending. The real final episode aired on Cartoon Network's website, titled The Greatest Story story ever told. This episode had a different approach, being about the characters becoming immortal instead of dying, specifically Carl and Frylock. Meanwhile, Master Shake tries to find a way to become immortal and even forms his own sort of cult religion with Meatwad, but it fails. He ends up dying in a police shootout between Frylock and Carl and the police, who they think he murdered someone. I don't know, this show is crazy. Frylock ends up in jail after being wrongly accused of the murder, but he can't die, so he can't ever really finish his lifetime sentence. And Meatwad ends up okay in the end, which is great. The episode ends on the two talking about how the series will never be canceled, and then it's over. Adult Swim's longest running show comes to a close on a joke about how it will last forever. It's a very fitting way to go out. But again, the show didn't even end there, because there was another after credit scene where Meatwad watched the finale and talked about how he didn't think it was that funny. It was another jab at the show, and honestly, the fact that these are the true last words of Aqua Teen are just very fitting and hilarious. What makes this ending so crazy is how unexpected it was. It was paired with a fake ending, it was revealed on the website, and honestly, it was just a cool way to close out the show. But just the idea of having a fake series finale for a real series finale, and both of them being as crazy as they were, that just was really unexpected, and I loved it.
Hey, you're not supposed to bring Christopher Lambert in here. Oh, sorry, that's just fried chicken. Okay, that's cool, because for a second it looked like Christopher Lambert.
The kids next door were just so cool. All I wanted as a little boy was to be in that treehouse with number 1 of the gang, and also his name was Nigel Uno and he was number 1. It's just so smart. Oh, I love this show. And with 6 seasons and 81 episodes under its belt, it just had to have a bang of an ending. And it accomplished the goal with Operation Interview, the final episode. The episode itself was paired with live-action interviews of the characters, this time as adults, recollecting their times as youth. But back in the animation world, Sector V was chasing down a cake from the delightful children from down the lane. It mirrors the first episode, a classic final episode move, but it ends up going somewhere entirely insane. To make a long story short, number 74.239, who has been baiting them that entire episode, reveals some huge news to Nigel. It turns out that there was no cake at all. They were actually leading him to a ship. They tell Nigel he was specially selected to become Earth's only operative of the Galactic Kids Next Door, an organization even higher up than the K&D, meant to fight the spread of evil adulthood all across the galaxy. It gets even crazier when Nigel's parents show up. We already knew that Nigel's dad was in the Kids Next Door, he was number 0. But we found out this episode that his mom was also an operative, and they were temporarily allowed their memories back in order to say goodbye to their son. I mean, God, this is really depressing when you think about it. Their son is leaving, their only son. He's just going away to space forever. They're okay with it. But this gets even sadder when the rest of Sector V comes out to say their final goodbyes. They all promise to never grow up at heart and say goodbye to Nigel forever, and they seem to keep that promise when the interviewer of the live-action segments turns out to be Father. Thinking he got all of the information he needed, he goes out to get Nigel Uno. But number 5 ends up revealing it's been an act all along, and she calls number 1 to say that she'll see him soon. It was overall a legitimately great ending. It's not often that an ending makes me feel as satisfied as this show did, and it makes me happy to know that that can still happen. But just the idea of them revealing there's actually a higher up section of the Kids Next Door, and Nigel's the only one allowed in, and there's all this groundbreaking information in the last episode, it was just crazy WTF that I did not see coming. In 2016, a reboot of the series was attempted under the name Galactic Kids Next Door. It gained a lot of traction online, and they went all out for it. Animatics were made with the original voice actors, and a fake Rainbow Monkey fan club website was made to throw people off. Sadly, as of now, it never really went anywhere, and we were left with just the idea and concept. Who knows, maybe with enough fan traction we may get to see a Galactic Kids Next Door one day. But until then, it seems like we'll have to live with this incredible ending. Darn.
The horrible truth, Nigel, is that adulthood is a disease sweeping the universe at an alarming rate. Without galactic-level operatives, more and more planets where kids rule will fall.
I can't even begin to count all of the iterations of the Scooby-Doo franchise. Everyone has their favorites, the original series, What's New Scooby-Doo. However, my personal favorite, and what I feel is the most underrated, is Scooby-Doo Mystery Inc. I feel like in terms of storytelling, creativity, and ingenuity, this series had it all and did it right. Its self-awareness of the series format really worked for the show's favor, and it's just really good. Like, if you haven't watched it, please do. It's so worth it. Fred is obsessed with traps, it's really funny. But what really made this show rise to the top of the list for me was undoubtedly its overarching story and its insane series finale. Did you ever think Scooby-Doo would face the apocalypse? Well, I'll tell you. To make a long series short, there was an evil darkness sealed in a sarcophagus millennia ago, and this thing always tried to trick mystery teen solvers into releasing him. Oh yeah, by the way, I guess throughout time there's been tons of mystery-solving teen teams with talking animals. Again, super self-aware series. The main antagonist of the series ends up being a talking parrot, Professor Pericles, part of the last iterations of the mystery-solving team, and the ending is unlike like anything I've ever seen in Scooby-Doo before, honestly. Whereas most of the show relies on rubber masks and fakes, this series has the gang going through magical planes of air, earth, fire, and water, and they're just so nonchalant about being in these magical worlds.
The planispheric disc not only maps three-dimensional space, but the fourth dimension of time and beyond.
Mystery Inc. travels through the ancient gates to get to the Dark Force and eventually kill it. However, Pericles beats them to it and unleashes the evil entity. Things go insane, and the evil entity brings the literal apocalypse to Crystal Cove. It gets super dark, but luckily Scooby-Doo ends up saving the day by destroying the entity at the source. The crew wakes up to find that the world is back to normal, except everything is different. It turns out that in the end, destroying the evil entity deleted everything it did from history and essentially created another parallel timeline. It gets so complicated. In this universe, their lives are perfect, but there's no mysteries. If that isn't crazy for Scooby-Doo, I don't know what is. Luckily, the series ends on a positive note where the author Harlan Ellison reveals not only that he managed to cross over with them and remembers everything, but he got them all enrolled in a college where there's still tons of mysteries to solve. It's kind of confusing, but a beautiful end to the series, which honestly blew me away. What makes this ending so crazy isn't just what happens in it, but the fact that it's an ending for a Scooby-Doo series. I mean, the whole thing just tore down the standards for what Scooby-Doo could do and what it could be. And hopefully, it sets a precedent for shows to come. Oh, wait. Oh, never mind.
Whoa! This place is like mega creepy and scary. Is it too late to turn back?
Yes, way too late.
I'm not even sure where to start for the regular show finale. I mean, first of all, the whole final season is a giant story arc set in space. Is that not crazy enough for you? They tackled the dangers of streaming by portraying it as a giant monster, destroying all other forms of media, and they gave the show one of the most satisfying endings of all time, but also one of the most mind-blowing. You know Pops, the lovable, jolly, happy lollipop man with no care in the world? Nah, he's actually the chosen one of his home planet, meant to fight to the death with his evil twin brother for the fate of all existence. And that's actually what the whole series was leading up to. See, the fight has been happening over and over again, but Pops always loses, resetting the universe. Wish I could say I'm surprised, but this is a regular show here, people. I mean, are you surprised? Pops is nervous for the fight, but people push him into it anyways. For a while, the battle is over the top amazing. They form a giant robot with a bunch of classic regular show characters. They fight literal streaming, a bunch of old favorites come back, but in the end, Pops ends up losing the fight and the universe resets. We get sent back to the first episode of regular show. It isn't until Rigby realizes what happened and reminds Mordecai by digging up the regular show Blu-ray box set that they're teleported back to the fight and given a second chance. But things are still going down and their universe is unraveling. Mordecai is literally looking down at his storyboard at one point, but then Pops makes a realization. Can't fight anti-Pops. Yes, he's love to win. And that's exactly what he does, and in the end, sacrifices himself by flying them both into the sun while hugging. That's right, Pops dies. I literally cried. Regular show really killed off the main character like that. Wild. This is seriously a tearjerker of a finale, as they make it back to Earth, and we see the rest of their lives play out on screen in a beautiful montage. Mordecai becomes an artist, Rigby becomes a happy father with Aline, and they all meet up again at the park after reminiscing on old times. The series ends with the VHS tape of the show popping out to reveal Pops was watching the whole time from heaven. Not gonna lie, I cried a lot. But this finale was so crazy just because of how grandiose it was. They really just killed off Pops, like damn, 10 out of 10. This is how you do an ending. It was WTF, it was crazy, but it was also done really right.
If anyone's listening, I want to come back as a dolphin.
Oh, good one. Me too. No, wait, an eagle. No, a pterodactyl with a really big...
Okay, here we are at the #1 absolutely WTF ending in cartoon history. You're probably thinking to yourself, what the heck? Batman the Brave and the Bold? I've never heard of this. I don't even remember this. You put Teen Titans at 10? You look like Harry Potter. Well, let me explain, because I promise this is true. And when I explain it, you will agree with me. Batman the Brave and the Bold was an action reboot of the classic Batman franchise, a love letter to those original detective comics. It was just as straight edge as the comics were, nothing crazy, just a pretty good Batman action show, villain of the week type stuff. It wasn't until the ending. See, for whatever weird reason in this series, they had a character called Batmite. He was a tiny comical version of Batman in the series that just broke the fourth wall a lot, and he ended up being the villain of the main series in this finale, as it's literally about him trying to cancel the show. Can't make this up. He sees the show isn't going in the direction that he wants, and he decides to literally make Batman jump the shark. He gives him a wife and a kid with a laugh track. He throws in obnoxious product placements, and weirdest of all, he changes the voice of Aquaman's actor to Ted McGinley, which they take an unnecessarily amount of jabs at.
Give Batman an adorable kid, replace a favorite character with a different actor, and of course,
Hire Ted McGinley.
You're Ted McGinley! Big fan! Oh, I'm a big fan! Let me press your pants!
An interesting fact with this whole thing is that the person trying to save the show from cancellation, Ambush Bug, was voiced by Henry Winkler. Henry Winkler is the famous actor who played Fonzie on the very popular show Happy Days, and he's the character who literally jumped the shark and started the whole thing. But it makes sense that they're taking jabs at Ted McGinley because he is known for being part of the downfall of Happy Days as he entered the show in seasons 8 through 11 when the show was on its downspin. And he's often known as the patron saint of jumping the shark, so these digs were kind of warranted in the end.
You know, Married with Children was on the air 7 years after I came on. Just so you know.
Aha! Tricked you into breaking character!
They show Batman's world disappearing as they literally change the channel, but they end up saving the show by throwing in a ton of useless action. However, it's not enough to save the series, and it cuts to the executives literally canceling the show. Then Bat might watch the trailer for the next series and realizes that his universe is ending, and so is he. They just fade off into nothing. They literally show a wrap party for the series where people are moving the set and Batman's there. It's just everything's out the window at this point. They don't give a single care. And just like that, Batman the Brave and the Bold comes to a close. Okay, just the idea of a mostly straight-edge Batman cartoon pulling a complete 180 for its ending and having it literally be about trying to cancel the series is insane. Now, a character breaking the fourth wall and talking about the show ending is really nothing I haven't seen before, but the fact that this happened in a action Batman series that for the rest of the series was nothing like this, it just makes it so crazy of an ending. It seems like it was written by people who had legitimately stopped caring. Like they knew the series was ending and they used it as a way to vent all of their frustrations with the superhero cartoon genre. It completely torn down the fourth wall. It literally torn down the entire set. And it wouldn't be as crazy if it happened in like Chowder, but this was a Batman show, a villain of the week show. And look, while Brave and the Bold was a little goofy as a throwback to the Silver Age comics, it was still mostly grounded in reality, even though it was an action comedy. But did you ever think that The Dark Knight would ever go full Deadpool? All of that just added together and created the most WTF ending in cartoon history. Guys, Batman had a laugh track. I mean, come on.
Boy, this show really took a nosedive this season. Want to see what else is on?
No, let's keep watching, Dad. Batman won't let us down. He never has before.
What's crazy is that this didn't turn out to be the end for Batman the Brave and the Bold at all. Recently, in 2018, Scooby-Doo and Batman the Brave and the Bold did a crossover movie special. So, I don't know, piece that together. I don't know how that works. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are 10 of the craziest WTF endings in cartoon history. Now, if we missed any or there's a show that you feel like deserves it more, please let us know in the comments down below. Be kind, be gentle. We're only human. We haven't watched every cartoon ever. But hopefully you agree with the list, and if you don't, let us know down there in those comments down below. If you want to consider helping out the Roundtable, you can check out our Patreon. There, with a little bit of money, you get exclusive access to our avatars and scripts, and get your name featured at the end of the video like all of these beautiful people here. And for a little bit more money, you get a shout out at the end of the month, which is just awesome. It's a great opportunity. Check that out. As always, if you can't get enough of the Roundtable, you can find us at Roundtable Vids with our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter all under that name, and Roundtable YT for our Snapchat account. If you enjoyed this video, give it a share, like it, and subscribe to the Roundtable for some more great cartoon content like this. As always, guys, I'm RetroNemo. This was another Top 10, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.